Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Laurence Bach in conjunction with his Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on through April 6th. Hello, Larry. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Mike.
Thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
So please tell us a bit about yourself and the show.
Well, I've been photographing since the early 70s. I was fortunate enough to do undergraduate work at the Philadelphia College of Art, and I studied with Ray Metzger, an amazing influence teacher and guide. Upon graduating from there, I wanted to go further with a master's degree because I wanted to teach. And so I was introduced to the school, the Basel School of Design in Basel, Switzerland, and put together a portfolio and got accepted. And so I spent the next year or so in graduate program in Basel, Switzerland, where I worked with different photographers and designers. And that influenced my career and my life from that experience back in the early 70s.
And you taught for many years at University of the Arts, yes?
I did. My career started at Moore College of Art, and then I was invited to Philadelphia College of Art before it was University of the Arts, then on to SUNY Purchase in New York, and then to Cooper Union, and then invited back to the University of the Arts to the design department. So interestingly enough, I've never been in the photo department.
Huh.
I've always made photographs and taught photography, but within the design department. Became chairman of the design department when it was University of the Arts, and again supported a program called photographics, where we try to see through graphic design and photography and made a statement between using both.
So I guess you were trained as an analog photographer and had seen many changes then.
Yes, we all worked in the dark room, and I did multiple images from the time I was putting together my final thesis, and I don't think I've ever made a single image negative or image since 1973. So it's always been multiple layers, multiple images that intrigued me. And of course, if you know Metzger's work, that he did the same thing. So for a while, I didn't have my own voice. I was influenced by Metzger, but then some years into that, I found my own voice and have continued that for, sorry to say, 50 years.
Hmm. So tell us about the work that we're seeing in your show.
Well, I've been lucky enough to have a number of shows at Cerulean, and that has propelled me to finish a series. The series always has some kind of consistency to it, whether it's simple circular elements or nature, always nature forms. I love photographing stuff that I find in the forest, in the street. Some are tin cans, some are tops of manhole covers. I mean, just anything. These all have that circular platter that holds the objects. The objects are always nature forms, which I've been looking at again for my whole career. And I love the idea of being able to layer them into my own imagination and compositions. This series includes, well, I call it drawings, because you can see that there are linear drawn elements that juxtapose the photographic element. And I thought that was really interesting. It is a filter within Photoshop that allows you to start with a pure photograph, and then you have the ability to play with a line drawing that comes from that file. So you'll see in all of these, there's a line drawing, and then there's a real photographic image. Also, past shows have been in color, and this is the first black and white series for a long time. but I found the richness of black and white and the layering just stimulating and beautiful. So I put color aside for a year and started working with these line drawings and with the photographs and in a pure black and white format.
So Larry, when digital photography came out, did you embrace it immediately or were you like flummoxed by it?
I was and watched other colleagues push it away and fight against it. But I think because I'm also a designer and I was within a graphic design department, I embraced what Photoshop could do and never looked back at the smelly dark room and rolling film and all the other aggravation that pure photography uh, gives you. I was lucky enough, I worked for Polaroid for a while. They gave me 8x10 film, and I went to Greece and did a series for Polaroid, um, schlepping around an 8x10 camera in the fields of Paros, Greece. And that was exciting. That was still color. And that led to other images, other series, not through Polaroid anymore, but through my own analog photographic statements. But I did embrace the Photoshop experience. I saw that there was dodging and burning and layering, everything you could do in a dark room, only you did it sitting at your desk in a bright room looking at a screen. So I never pushed that away. I really embraced it.
So do you find that sometimes the infinite choices you can make, how do you reconcile that? Like how do you know when to stop?
You don't. You have to have it taken away from you because
Right.
like other media, it does have this endless possibility. And for each one of these, there might be numbers 27A, B, C, D. There could be five of them that have variations. And from those five, I try and pick the one that I think is the clearest. So variations come easily. Change your mind, change your mind. And even as I look at this show, I could go from one to the other and think about what else I could have done or what I should do if I get the file back and change it. So that's a burden, but it's also a pleasure. I think my students also taught me a lot, like most professors, just the idea of their flexibility, their age, their having less obstacles and burdens. It was a pleasure I love teaching, and I was forced to stop at 70. I would have gone on, but as we all know, the University of the Arts was going through some turmoil and sadly finally closed. But I did love working with the students, and they taught me a lot as well.
So a lot of your imagery is drawn from nature.
Yes. And I think if you look back at the history of image making, all the way back to my graduate programs at Basel, those were organic nature forms as well. I'd find rubber plant leaves and paint them white or paint them black and photograph them in conjunction with other elements. So I've always looked at nature forms as sometimes a human symbol, and most of the time is just some beautiful organic shape.
So you're taking your like photographs and then layering them in Photoshop.
Yes, each individual image that you see here might have 5, 6 layers. And, then you have the flexibility of what layer goes on top, what goes behind it. But each starts off as an individual photograph. Sometimes I cut it in half, like this one, uh, making 2 layers left and right, and then playing with them as as double elements that work on the composition. You also might notice that even there is a black mat or a black frame, but I've always been interested in the objects falling out of the mat, falling out of the frame. So I don't want it to be a tight, restricted black line. I want the objects to spill out onto the frame. And that's been going on for forever. That's my dog.
Yes.
So again, shell shapes might be replaced by the platters or the circles. Again, it's another circular element that seems, and here's a good example of a photographic element at the top, and then a drawn element in the middle, and then another photograph are the weeds and the object, the nature forms that are happening there. And I could show it in a classroom how that curve of the lower object in Photoshop allows you to push the curve a little deeper or straighten it out. You have, as you said, endless possibilities. That curve in reality was not like that. That was through the magic of Photoshop. There's a filter called warp, and you just draw into it and make the object do what you want it to do.
Yeah, there's very few straight lines in
No,
your
the only
images,
straight lines are the frame.
aside from the border.
Yeah.
And texture seems to be particularly important, like contrast of texture.
The contrast, yeah. The busyness of the texture against, again, the simplicity of the line drawing or the simplicity of the shapes. I need that kind of conflict.
I mean, the elements are very specific, but they exist in kind of a disembodied realm,
Yeah,
of
I
white
agree.
ground. So they're like moving in and out of that. So you're not pinning them down to a specific context or space.
Right. And I also like them melting into the background. So you rarely get the full object. You notice how there's a blend or there's a, a distance that's created when half the image is soft and white and melts into the background, and the rest of the image is sharp and clear as an object. So I don't want things to be too literally drawn. So there's always this blend or this diaphanous edge to some of the objects.
Yeah, it gives them a very abstract contemporary
Yes,
quality,
yes.
juxtaposed with the specificity of the objects and
Well,
textures and platforms, etc.
I've looked at the Bauhaus, of course, but Moholy-Nagy and Aaron Siskind and other photographers who were not afraid to say the word design and saw the world as a designer and as a photographer. And so those early influences in the Bauhaus and then on to more contemporary artists were magic to me. I couldn't get enough of them. And Metzger was one of the masters of design and photography in terms of composition and the choice of elements.
I mean, it must have been so difficult to do a layered type work with analog photography.
It would be a double exposure in the camera. I worked with 4x5 film. And as I said, I even worked with 8x10 film and did multiple exposures. and did little drawings, little tracing paper drawings to put on the camera on the glass to see where the first object would go, and then change the still life and shot another object, hoping that it would fall in the right place. But again, you get 12 chances with these large format films, and you just kind of make the same idea 12 times and hope that one of them might speak to you. And
Very,
11 of them are failures.
very labor intensive.
Very. To say nothing of then going into the dark room and hoping that the film cooperates and develops correctly.
Right. When I think, now you can speed along and be more
Instant
creative
gratification.
right, without the, cumbersome logistics. I think you can get probably closer to your aes- pure aesthetic.
It is because it's not so accidental. I'm
Right.
looking at it and I'm playing with it. So there's not this element of, I wonder what the film's going to look like after all of this trouble. I can see it
Right.
right away.
Mhm.
And
Well,
that's
it's a
why some of
wonderful,
the pure photographers push that away. They and I early on adored black and white photography and that chance element. Not everybody does double exposures on the same piece of film, but that's how I ended up doing some multiple images.
well, it's a really wonderful show, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the show is up through April 6th. We hope people come down to see it. Everything's also available on our website, ceruleanarts.com. And thanks so much for being here and have a great night.
You too. Thank you to Tina and to you. Thank you. Good night.